Test, test, test. 1, 2, 1, 2. Y'all, smoky eye is my bitch. Um, and this is a very subtle smoky eye. Yeah, just because I have super dark eyes, so I did it subtle. I didn't even put really much on my top, um, whatever that's called, top lid. Anyways, I came on here because I actually have been recording several videos and not posting them. Not really sure why that is. I think I'm just not super satisfied on the content, but I was thinking of so many topics I was talking about. Um, and I think I want to talk about advice. So, feel like I want to give something to the community and or anyone watching my video. And so since I'm 52 years old, I figured the chances of someone younger watching my video is very high. So I want to kind of share a message to my younger self. This might not, advice might not work for everyone, but I think the best person that I can give advice to is my younger self. And so sometimes, people have common problems. Not always the same solution, but uh, yeah, I kind of wanted to talk about things. There's so much that at my age I have overcome that I almost, you forget about it. You forget that that was even a struggle because you've overcome it so much. So when they talk about gratitude, and today happens to be Thanksgiving, so I guess gratitude's a thing. But sometimes it's hard to be grateful for things because you don't remember what it was like before. I guess you can say I'm grateful for this version of myself, but it's yeah, there's things that I've overcome that I just forget about because yeah, like I said, they're so easy now. So one, I'm an introvert. In OPS, my type is double feminine SEFI, consume sleep, play blast. And I think, blasting, when I was thinking about blasting and not being good at it, I was like, I've actually gotten better at it. And I do think we're motivated by our socials. So I'm social number 4. And so communicating with other people and collaborating and providing communication in that sense is very important to me. And I'm very motivated to blast. And I kind of became aware of this. Like I said, it's one of those things where I have been doing it and then forget that it was even a thing for me to overcome until actually I came across another ESFP who was not good at blasting in this area. And then I was like, oh, I'm picking up the slack here, but it's not really hard for me. But it is very, I notice how I'm doing something the other person's not doing. Like that part's very noticeable to me. And so I think like when I make plans with other people, I'm very communicative. Now, if it's a party where someone just says, hey, you're invited to this party, and there's no RSVP required, then I suppose I can be blast last in that sense where I'm like, well, okay, maybe I'll come, maybe I won't. Let me just play it by ear and wait till day of and see. Um, and I don't know if that bothers people, but I also think, well, if you have a party with a bunch of people and you're not requiring an RSVP, you don't need it. So, um, yeah, in that sense, I might still not blast there, but mostly I will um, be one to communicate. Even if someone else makes the plans, I'm going to communicate. I'm going to be there. If I say I'm going to be there, I'm going to be there. And one thing I will do, though, that might be a blast last that I notice people who have blast higher do. Um, and this might be something I have to um, acquire skill on. But if someone says, hey, let's do something next month, we're going to a concert, where do you want to go to a concert? And you have to plan in advance because you have to get tickets. So you buy tickets, or actually, no, concert's a bad example. Something that you're not necessarily buying into. Like, do you want to go hiking on Memorial Weekend? Whatever. We all have Memorial Weekend off. Let's do that. Let's plan it. And maybe this is a month in advance for whatever reason. Okay, I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but I know I've run into these situations before where there's a plan in advance and I say yes. Now, when I say yes, um, the yes is yes until the day of. If my RSVP changes, that's when I communicate someone. But if my RSVP stays the same, I will not contact someone. I will just show up. And this is what I find happens with people who are maybe really good at planning. They expect another communication to just verify, hey, we're all going to be there that day. Even if your yes is yes, they want that reassurance. So that's something I notice I don't do because I'm like, I said yes, I'm going to be there. But I know that in my head, they don't know that, right? So to show that I am maybe more trustworthy and to reassure them, that is something I could do is just check in and say, hey, are we still going? Now, also, if someone plans something, you think they would be the ones to say, hey, are we still going? But I've had it happen where people are like, well, I didn't hear from you, so I didn't think so. It's like, well, I said yes in the beginning. And then they think because I didn't communicate between the yes and the event that, who knows, they don't feel secure with the yes. So that's something I've learned, that if there is a long gap between the yes and the event, that you might still have to communicate. Also at work, I am a communicator. And which is interesting because I would say my job is working with my coworkers a lot. So I will communicate. This is one thing I notice. It's just like really bad communication. Like my whole company has really bad communication. We have different departments and no one's communicating to the different department. You might have, like, for instance, I might have a contact in the procurement department. And then if that contact changes, that person's no longer my contact, nothing. There's no communication. No one tells me, here's your new contact. Don't contact so and so anymore. They're not going to respond. They're not going to respond, period, because they don't do it. They're not even going to tell you they don't do it. That's how bad the communication is. And also with people I work closely with, it might be like we're in two different rooms, so I don't see them, and we're working together. Like it's like a tag team effort. Like I do this part, you do that part, then you're going to give it to me, I do another part. I've had this, okay, happen where I might be like, okay, they're like, oh, it's your turn to do blah, blah, blah. They might chat message me, and in the chat message, I say, okay. So I start the work and then I say done and I give it to them, whether I give it to them and say done or say done and then give the work to them. Either way, it's the chat message. Then I'll sit for an hour going, what's going on? Did something happen? They forget about me? Am I supposed to start working and they didn't tell me? I don't know what's going on. And then I might wander over to their neck of the woods and they're like, oh, there's an issue with blah, 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 and it's taking long. And I'm thinking, that's something you think you communicate with people. That's something you think you would communicate with people. And people don't, and I will. So I think that is number 4 because it's externally motivated. And I think these people who aren't communicating are internally motivated. So they think as long as I'm getting my work done, I really don't care what the group is doing. And I'm just more group oriented, group communication oriented. Um, and so I think that's something, and I wouldn't say I was a natural at it, but it was something I was like, I value this. I highly value it because of my socials. Therefore, I am going to work through the growing pains of doing this, of contacting someone, of saying, hey, what's going on? Now I feel unnatural. I mean, you think of introverts who say, I don't want to make phone calls, um, things like that. And I remember making a phone call. Was like, getting prepared for it. But no, not anymore. I will call anyone, anywhere, anytime. Also, I've been told at my work that when I do we have equipment, lab equipment, that sometimes needs to get repaired, and it's not scheduled maintenance. It is something broke down, and when something breaks down, you really have to. If you can't fix it yourself, you really have to call vendors and set up appointments. And I will do this, and I've been told I'm good at that. And I think the reason I've been told I'm good at that is because so many people are not good at it. And I wonder, like, why aren't people good at doing this? Like, why not? And yeah, it's just building that sort of knowing, well, this needs to get done. If it doesn't get done, the whole group's going to be stuck. I'm not going to put this person in a bind because I know people are counting on me. I know people need this equipment to work, even though this isn't my piece of equipment. I don't own it, right? It's my work's piece of equipment. I still feel responsibility to um, get things done, and I will, even if I'm going to work on it and try and fix it, I will still call the vendor because I figure whatever comes first, whether I fix it or they fix it, we'll see what happens. Like whether they make an appointment to show up or I fix it, why not just call? And people don't do that. And it's almost like now I just can't think, why is that hard? Like, what is hard about that? What's the skill? What's the skill? Because I do it so naturally that I don't remember learning the skill. But those are things I have definitely learned a skill. And I think it is, you can be motivated by your socials. So if you're externally motivated, I do think you're going to be a better communicator with people. Um, Versus, I think if you're internally motivated, you're going to do things for yourself a lot. When you're at home, like for instance, I think my desk at my office and my workspace and everything is really nice and neat, and I'm up to date, and everything's just really organized. And then I come home and it's not, like, my desk is not organized. Yeah, because there's a lot more internal motivation than when I get home that I have to use to do these things. And it's like, who's gonna care? And I don't even have a roommate. I think, have I if I had a roommate, there would be some external motivation there, but I don't. And so my workspace is so much more organized than my home space. So, yeah, I think that is things I've learned as I've gotten older. I think I've also, one thing you learn is basically you're going to have problems, constantly have problems, and if you don't take care of them, um, they do build up because that is what life is, just a series of problems to solve. I don't really see life as coasting. I think when you're younger, you want to learn how to master and coast through life, right? Mastering means coasting and having no problems and having everything be just happy and content. But that is the wrong goal to have. Um, a better goal is to learn how to solve problems and work on solving problems when they come up, because if not, they're going to pile up, because life is just a series of different problems to solve. Whether it's in relationships and work, at home, things always are breaking down at home, and either you have to fix it or someone else has to fix it. And then even once you feel like I've gotten to step one, there's branches that step one can branch out, and you can have other problems. You could go smoothly or not smoothly, and then it can branch from there. So that's what life is navigating those things. It's not really the finish line. I don't believe there's a finish line. I believe there's an end. And I don't know if it's an abrupt end. I'm not even close to that point yet. But something tells me it might be abrupt, just because as you get older, time goes by quicker. So I think if you die when you're older, it's going to be like fast, right? Because time is just like slips through your fingers so quickly. Um, so other things I've learned, one thing I've learned about, yeah, also same thing with jobs. It's always going to be a problem. If you're looking for a job where you're just going to be happy 24/7 and have no problems, you're never going to find that. So instead, you have to find out what problems am I willing to have and what problems do I not want to have. So that's why I always say, like, look for things like, do you like to work with, do you mind working at a desk all the time? Does that bother you? Well, if it does, then don't get a job that does that. Um, or vice versa. If you don't like dealing with customer service and the job you're applying for or the career you're going into involves a lot of customer service, then maybe you're going to be unhappy, or at least until you learn that skill, you might be unhappy. I always feel like it's good to challenge, but not to do a challenge that's going to suck your energy. So I always think energy wise, and maybe I'm an energy dumb, so I think um, 25% challenge is good. I would say even, it's okay to go higher, but I think overall, the time spent on challenges, I'm not saying like you're going to have a hard challenge, really difficult challenge, that's fine, but it shouldn't be for 8 hours of the day. If you work 8 hour, if you have a 8 hour work day, you shouldn't be challenged all 8 hours. Okay. I feel like it should be just a little bit of that time. You should be able to, if not, you're going to burn out. You want to have skill and confidence. And of course, confidence is overcoming these challenges, but then you also want to have challenges that you've overcome that now you master and you can go through with less effort, right? Like, so that's one thing to look for. What things sort of get you? And even I would say dress. Like consider how you have to show up to work. Do you have to, okay, for instance, let's say you're a model or an actor, your looks are going to be very important. Or a flight attendant, your looks are going to be very important. How does that make you feel? Like, are you okay? Like, even if you're like, yeah, I know I've been told like I look well put together and I'm attractive, but I don't want that to be the center of my job. It's not so much what you have even, but what you're willing to that what you value pretty much. And so yeah, like for instance, I do think with SEFI and my OPS code that sometimes style and fashion is something, but I really like using my brain and doing something that's going to better the community. I just don't want to, and I do think style and everything is it makes you feel better in confidence, but I like it to be a little brainiac. And maybe that's my NT, demon NT, but I'm working as a chemist in a laboratory, and so I like the brainiacness of that versus being, say, a fashion designer. I think that's something that I'm not sure I would have long-term satisfaction out of that. I think it would be an okay hobby, but I that way I could put it down when I'm kind of like this is too much for me. I yeah, I don't know if it's my demon NT that is sort of wanting to be in more of a cerebral kind of atmosphere. Yeah, so I think if there's life, if I, I don't even know if I really blasted that very well, but if there's life lessons in what I just said that to learn, then I think I hope that someone got something out of it because I feel like it was a little hodgepodgey, but yeah, I do think I gave uh, a good synopsis on how to challenge yourself, don't burn yourself out, look for things that sort of trigger. You don't want to be triggered at your job. You don't want to be overwhelmed. You don't want to get burnt out. You want to do something that you're going to be able to sustain long term. That's going to bring joy to you. So sometimes it's not so much the final result, like what is the name of the job, astronaut, teacher, um, scientist, human resources, whatever it is. It's not so much the title as it is think of atmosphere, think of um, work lifestyle, and what you maybe would not like or not want to put up with. Um, and also, communication. I do think blasting, if you're blast last, you can get motivated by your social to blast. I don't think it's just one's that blast. I think one's blast will be pushed to do their blast last in a certain one way. But I think, and maybe it's in the, hey, grasshopper, I'm a one and I'm, here to be your sensei versus my blast last motivation comes from number 4, collaboration, communication with people. So yeah, there's that. So you can be motivated to do your last animal by your socials. And so look for that. If you want to practice your last animal, get better at it, look for what your social type is and ways that you can use your last animal in that arena. So, yep, that's it for today. And maybe we'll see if I post this video. I do not know. It is up in the air. But anyway, see y'all later.